All right, second stimulus check. When is it coming? When is that second wave of stimulus package going to be proposed and approved by members of Congress? How much should you see with a second stimulus check? Will it come by direct deposit or will it come in paper form? A lot of great new information coming out today and a lot of bad signals about the economy and coronavirus that signals that a second stimulus check should be coming even sooner than originally believed. All right, here is what we know currently. First of all, the first stimulus check was supposed to provide a stimulus for the economy as a result of coronavirus in the month of March. The check was delivered in April. People never really got a check for the month of April, and now we're heading into the month of May. The original Stimulus Act, the CARES Act, as originally drafted, had two stimulus checks. Most people don't tell you that. But when it went to members of Congress, that second check dropped off. Originally, it was proposed to have a check for each month because at that time they thought that the period of the pandemic stay-at-home order would last about 2 months. As we now enter into the month of May, many states are seeing their stay-at-home orders lifted, and some are seeing it possibly being lifted in later May, which is exactly along the lines of how the original CARES Act had designed the stimulus checks. 2 months, two checks. But you all got one check. So what's going on? It appeared that when they approved the original stimulus check, under the first version of the CARES Act, they wanted to piecemeal it. They wanted to do a little bit at a time and then address the situation later. As you recall, the CARES Act had other parts in there. It had the EIDL grant, the PPP loan, the SBA loan. Several of those instruments that may have applied to you, you may have got to that money or may have wanted that money, didn't come through as hoped. They sort of either fell apart, they were exhausted, or they did not get to the people the way they were supposed to invigorate the economy. That is room and means and ammunition to basically argue that a second stimulus check is needed. The reason why is the following. Let me back up. The SBA loan was a bridge loan initially approved on the CARES Act that was to provide help to businesses, self-employed individuals, and similar like that to get through the impact of the coronavirus. Now, if you didn't apply for an SBA loan, which many of you didn't do, many of you didn't even know it existed, it was gone. It literally was gone. If you go to the SBA's website today and want to ask for that SBA loan, it talks about how wonderful it is, but you can't get it. It was closed in a very finite number of weeks. It went live, and by mid-April, it was gone. EIDL grant, second mechanism to give stimulus to the economy. A $10,000 grant, non-refundable, you don't have to pay it back, non-payable, to be given to each business to invigorate their work and get the economy back running. The way the CARES Act wrote it, it was to be $10,000 exactly given to each business. When SBA got it, which they're the processing agency for it, they messed it up. They changed the language. They digressed from the CARES Act language and started rationing it, giving $1,000 to businesses that held only one employee. And if you had less than 10 employees, they gave you $1,000 based upon the number of employees you disclose on the application website. Again, it didn't work the way it was supposed to work. We have a lot of followers on Twitter, 250,000 or some of them, and a lot of them have commented the same way, that they got the EIDL check, but they got $1,000, and their rent for 2 months of the stay-at-home lockdown order is $5,000. We have other followers who have monthly rent checks for their businesses of $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, and they're into 2 months of this at $10,000, and they got a $1,000 check. How does that provide any stimulus? It doesn't. What's going on here is that when members of Congress reconvene next week, they're going to see that all these mechanisms didn't work. They didn't work in the way that they were supposed to work. The stimulus check was given to families. The EIDL grant was to be given to businesses, but it was not given the amount it was supposed to be given. The SBA loan was not given to enough businesses. A lot of businesses out there now still want that SBA loan. They couldn't get it. I know a lot of businesses who applied for the SBA loan never heard back, and the window was closed, and they were told they didn't apply the certain way. It's gone. And the PPP has been a fiasco. There's been a fiasco of an enormous proportions. That was to provide stimulus to both you, the employee, or also you, the business owner. Basically, it was to provide a forgivable loan that would pay the individual employees 2 months, get them back to work, and certify those benefits were paid by the month of June, submit them to the lender, and get that loan amount forgiven. The problem is a lot of you are still not back at work. The stay-at-home orders are still in place. You can't work. So what happens there? A lot of people have not gone through with their PPP loans. They're too worried about it. We've advised you to stay away from PPP loans in some regards. It's too scary. So a lot of those businesses have not gotten their employees back to work. And then there's the other part of the PPP loan, which you all know about, whether it's Shake Shack or Lakers or all these other organizations, the Harvard University's cafeteria group, all these people who have never should have gotten the PPP loan that was supposed to be for businesses 500 employees or less, got the money and took the money away and did not put it to the businesses. And you know why that doesn't help? Because the money is not put back in. Even though that Steve Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary, the member to the president, came out and slammed all these organizations like we says, how dare you take their money? When they and told them to put the money back in, when the money goes back in, it does not go back out to you. It does not go back out to new PPP loan applicants. It just sits somewhere. I don't know where it's sitting, but it's been verified that it does not go back into the pool of money to circulate to stimulate the economy. What's the end result? The end result is that when you had a CARES Act that was approved weeks ago with all these mechanisms, and so many of them have not delivered the funds that they were supposed to do, where is the stimulus? And members of Congress know this. So when they reconvene, they're going to say, hey, the first stimulus package was done in a way that really did not work. And we have so many mechanisms here that are just not sufficient. How much of a second stimulus check should you expect? When should you expect the second stimulus check? And will there be multiple stimulus checks? Here's the bad news. The bad news is basically the medical news. The bad news is that this pandemic is not going away. The bad news is that you can have governors, you can have people in West Village or East Village, New York. You can have people in D.C. You can have people in Atlanta. You can have people in Huntington Beach that want to defy any type of order and just sit out and not social distance. The coronavirus is still out there, and it's still going to hit. And the data coming out this weekend is horrific. In Singapore, for example, where they thought they could lift stay-at-home orders, they are now experiencing a second wave. They're now experiencing a second wave because they lifted the stay-at-home orders too soon. In Russia, they reported the single highest day of reported coronavirus cases ever. 10,000 cases reported new in the last 24 hours in Russia. What's going to happen, sadly, and here's my prediction, I don't know this for certain, but here's my prediction, that with these stay-at-home orders being lifted too soon, a pandemic still out there, a virus still in position, the virus is still out there, it's in the street. It hasn't moved. When people start not social distancing, going out and meandering around the virus, it's going to latch on, and you're going to get a second wave. And at that point, you're going to need a lot more than just first or second or third stimulus check. The lull, the summer lull, is a fallacy as well. There is no summer lull that the coronavirus, is going to go on holiday in the month of July and August because it's hot. The virus doesn't go on holiday or disappear because it's hot. That's just a lot of junk. The virus doesn't disappear because it's warm outside, and the virus doesn't disappear because it's sunny outside. And because of that, you need stimulus checks to invigorate people whose financial livelihood is in despair. When stay-at-home orders are lifted and people get sick, stay-at-home order is going to be reissued. But the finite situation, the situation right now, is rent, utilities, obligations. And that's what I'm doing for you in these updates daily about the second stimulus check. The concern right now is what's happening this week, that we are in the first week of May, rents are due. Rent forgivenesses have been in place in some cities, but those rent forgivenesses or I should say rent moratoriums or eviction moratoriums or have been in place in certain cities, those are coming off in a few days from now or a few weeks from now. Then what? Come late May, are you supposed to all see evictions coming along the pipeline when you don't have a second stimulus check? Members of Congress understand this. Some cities understand this, but they don't have money to give you a second stimulus. For example, in Santa Monica, they issued an extension to the moratorium on evictions into the month of June, which is nothing like anything they have in LA County or state of California. They see the problem financially into June. From a real estate standpoint, businesses have been appearing on CNBC as of last Friday talking about how they think May is going to be worse financially for people meeting obligations financially than even April. When you don't have a second stimulus check in May, then what are you doing, Congress? What are you doing? I mean, we're not talking about June, we're talking about May. And people got paid in April for March. So what is going on here? Steve Mnuchin once famously said, oh, you can live on a $1,200 check for 8 weeks. Thank you, Steve. No one can. You can't. Your meals are more than $1,200 a week. So where is this mindset coming from? The good news is the following. The president on Friday, who is very, very gung-ho to open everything up, actually said he is seriously considering a second stimulus check. His administration in early April said at that time they were seriously considering a second stimulus check. So both parties want a second stimulus check. That's the good news. The bad news is, when is it going to happen and how fast can you get the payment? A lot of you have been commenting about this with us in the last 24 hours. Drop your comments, like this video, subscribe, because we're updating the second stimulus check as often as something new comes out. And this is a big issue. One of the issues you talked about is, will the payments be routed in a way that is faster and quicker? And how much will it be? Yes. Congress has actually talked about they hate the paper checks. Yes, a certain someone wanted his name on those checks. God bless him. But that was just a fiasco for people not to get checks timely. Federal government loves direct deposit. It doesn't cost them anything. A direct deposit does not cost the sender anything to send it. It's faster and quicker. So with a second stimulus check, I think you really should expect it to come in a different mechanism than a paper check. I would be surprised if it's done that way again. How much? I think that the longer this goes, you're going to see at least $2,000. I don't think anyone's going to buy a $1,200 second stimulus check at this point. All the proposals on the table talk about $1,200, $2,000, $500, or $600 per child. We're including dependents, adult dependents 18 years or older. We're including senior citizen dependents that may appear on your tax return. We're lowering the age to 16. We are raising the threshold for who will get the second stimulus check to a higher 2019 income. This is all great for when and how the second stimulus check should be delivered. But the bottom line is, it needs to come now. The problem is now. And even if it's approved next week, yeah, a lot of you are in the comments saying you haven't gotten the first check. Or a lot of you are in the comments saying you got the first check last week. I mean, they got to get these checks out faster. So with the medical horizon as bad as it looks, that you could have a second wave of coronavirus, that you could have that second wave this summer, it's even more needed than ever before, because the financial problems are now, and we haven't even gotten to the second wave of coronavirus. For that reason, we have 4 videos for you today, 3 of which may apply to you. EIDL, grant, PUA, this one, and a surprise video. As always, drop a comment. We get back to you in the comments as fast as possible. Within about 4 hours, we were doing comments all last night. What a week this has been. What a great week. Because of you, this channel has risen so quickly in just 7 days. We've only been at this for 7 days. I mean, like 10,000 views overnight in just the 4 videos posted last night. Thank you. So subscribe, like the video, and as always, stay with LA for more.